Formula One is about to end its season in the most brutal way we've ever seen. 4 races in a row, no breaks, no recovery, and zero margin for error. This isn't just a calendar update. It's a pressure test designed to push drivers, teams, and even the cars beyond their limits, all because of a last-minute plan to bring back races that were cancelled due to global conflict. And here's the part that changes everything. This insane 4-race finale could decide the championship not by speed, but by who survives the chaos, the fatigue, and the mistakes that come with it. Because when everything is compressed into one final stretch, one bad weekend doesn't just hurt, it can end everything. At first, this didn't look like a dramatic change. It looked like a problem being solved. 2 races were gone. Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, removed before the season even found its rhythm. Not because of performance, not because of logistics, but because of a geopolitical situation that made racing there impossible at the time. And when that happened, something unusual appeared in the calendar. A gap. Weeks without racing. A pause that felt completely out of place in modern Formula One. For the teams, it was strange. For the drivers, it disrupted momentum. For the championship, it changed the natural flow of the season. But behind the scenes, nobody treated it as permanent. Because from the very beginning, the language used was careful. Not cancelled forever. Reprogrammed. Delayed. Waiting for the right moment. And now, that moment is starting to form. Because the situation in the region has shifted. Not fully resolved. Not completely stable. But stable enough for Formula One to start asking the question again. Can we bring those races back before the season ends? And that's where everything becomes complicated. Because adding a race into an already packed calendar is not simple. Every race is a massive operation. Logistics, travel, equipment, personnel, everything is planned months in advance. Now imagine trying to insert one race into that system. It's already difficult. Now imagine trying to insert 2. That's where the structure begins to bend. And this is exactly how the idea of the 4-race finale starts to take shape. Not as a plan from the beginning, but as a solution to a problem that never truly disappeared. Because if those races come back, they have to fit somewhere. And there's only one place left. The end. The most intense part of the season. The moment where championships are decided. Where pressure is already at its highest. So instead of spreading the calendar, everything compresses. And that compression is what creates something completely different. A final stretch where there is no pause. No reset. No time to think. Just race after race after race, with everything on the line. And that's the point where this stops being a calendar issue, and starts becoming a completely new kind of challenge. And this is where the real impact begins to show, because a 4-race finale doesn't just add pressure. It completely rewrites how Formula One works at the most critical moment. Think about a normal season. Drivers rely on rhythm. Teams rely on recovery. There's always a small window to reset after a bad weekend. Fix the car. Analyze mistakes. Come back stronger. That safety net disappears completely. Because in a 4-race run, everything is connected. One race flows directly into the next. No time to breathe. No time to recover. And that changes how every single decision is made. Because now, one mistake doesn't stay in one weekend. It carries forward. A bad setup. A reliability issue. A strategic error. You don't just fix it. You carry it into the next race, immediately. And that's where the pressure becomes relentless. But here's where it gets even more intense. Because this isn't happening at the start of the season. It's happening at the end. When drivers are already exhausted. When teams have already pushed through months of travel, development, and constant pressure. When the smallest details decide everything. Now imagine adding 4 consecutive race weekends on top of that. Fatigue isn't just a factor. It becomes decisive. Because tired drivers make mistakes. Tired engineers miss details. Tired teams lose sharpness. And in Formula One, losing even a fraction of precision is enough to lose positions. Lose points. Lose championships. But here's the deeper layer. Because this doesn't just test individuals. It tests systems. Cars that were already struggling with energy management now have to survive 4 consecutive race weekends. Components under stress. Power units pushed to the limit. No time for major changes. No time for full rebuilds. And that creates a new kind of risk. Reliability. Because in a compressed finale like this, a single failure doesn't just cost a race. It could decide the entire championship. And that's what makes this scenario so dangerous. Because now, the fight is not just about who is fastest. It's about who can survive. Who can stay consistent. Who can avoid the one mistake that destroys everything. But here's the part that changes the psychology of the championship completely. Knowing that everything will be decided in those final races. Teams will start thinking differently from the beginning of the season. Do you push early and build an advantage? Or do you hold back, protect the car, protect the drivers, and prepare for that final stretch? Because in a 4-race finale, momentum becomes everything. And losing it, at the wrong moment, becomes almost impossible to recover from. And that's where the championship turns into something else entirely. Not just a test of speed. Not just a test of strategy. But a test of endurance, under maximum pressure, with no escape. And this is where everything builds toward the moment that could define the entire season. Because when you compress the final phase like this, something unexpected happens. The championship stops being about gradual progression. It becomes a countdown. 4 races. 4 chances. 4 moments where everything can change instantly. And that creates a completely different kind of tension. Because normally, a title fight evolves. Points gained slowly. Gaps built over time. Pressure increasing step by step. But here, everything explodes at once. 1 race can flip the standings. 2 races can destroy a lead. 3 races can completely reset the fight. And by the 4th, there is nowhere left to hide. But here's the part that makes this even more intense. Because not all circuits behave the same. If this finale includes tracks like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi, you're not just racing under pressure. You're racing under completely different conditions. High-speed circuits, night races, heat, humidity, different tire demands, different energy profiles. So now drivers aren't just fighting each other. They're adapting, constantly. And in a normal season, adaptation takes time. Here, you don't have it. You arrive. You perform. You survive. Or you fall behind. And that's what turns this into something brutal. Because the margin for error becomes almost zero. But here's where the real danger appears. Because championships are often decided by moments. A late braking move. A pit stop. A small mistake. Now imagine those moments happening 4 weekends in a row. With no reset in between. That's where chaos begins to creep in. Because even the best drivers, under that level of pressure, can crack. Even the best teams can make mistakes. And once that happens, there is no time to recover. No time to fix it. No time to breathe. And that's why this finale could produce something we rarely see in Formula One. Unpredictability. Because when pressure, fatigue, and constant competition combine, the expected outcome starts to break. And suddenly, the driver who was leading is defending. The team that looked unbeatable starts making errors. And the one that stayed consistent starts rising at the perfect moment. And that leads to the final realization. This 4-race finale doesn't just decide a champion. It exposes everything. Every weakness. Every strength. Every decision made throughout the entire season. Because when everything is compressed into one final stretch, there's no way to hide flaws anymore. Only one thing matters. Who can handle the pressure when there is absolutely no escape left? And now we reach the point where everything finally comes down to one unavoidable truth. This finale doesn't just test performance. It reveals character. Because when you place 4 races back to back, at the very end of the season, under maximum pressure, something inside the sport changes. The strongest car is no longer enough. The fastest driver is no longer enough. What matters is who can hold everything together when it starts to fall apart. Because it will. That's the nature of a finale like this. Something will go wrong. Somewhere. For someone. And when it does, the reaction becomes more important than the mistake itself. Do you recover? Or do you collapse? That's the difference this kind of ending creates. But here's where it becomes even more brutal. Because in a normal season, pressure builds gradually. You feel it coming. You prepare for it. You adapt. Here, it arrives all at once. Like a wave. And it doesn't stop. Race 1 hits. You barely process it, and race 2 is already there. Then race 3. Then the final moment. No pause. No space to think clearly. Only instinct. Only reaction. And that's where even the best can break. Because fatigue doesn't just affect the body. It affects decisions. Tiny delays in judgment. Small errors in timing. And in Formula One, those small errors are everything. A missed apex. A slow pit stop. A wrong call. Each one becomes amplified under pressure. Each one becomes harder to recover from. And that's how championships slip away. Not in one big moment. But in a series of small ones, stacked too close together to fix. But here's the final layer that makes this truly different. Because this kind of finale doesn't just reward speed or strategy. It rewards control. Control over emotions. Control over mistakes. Control over chaos. Because when everything around you is accelerating, the only way to survive is to stay calm. And that's something you can't simulate. You can't prepare for it fully. You can only face it when it happens. And that's why this ending could create something unforgettable. Not just a champion, but a story. A story of pressure, of resilience, of decisions made in the most intense moments possible. Because in the end, when the final race is over, when the noise disappears, when everything settles, the driver who wins won't just be the fastest. They'll be the one who stayed standing when everything else started to fall.